Before I get started, hi, I'm Father Thomas, and this is a tribute to my namesake, Saint Thomas. It's his feast day, 3rd of July, and it is based on a few scraps of legends and tidbits of various lives of Saint Thomas, and a whole lot on my own imagination as I've contemplated Saint Thomas and meditated on his life over the years. Um, it's not dogma. It's not the official voice of the Celtic Christian Church. It's just me um, giving tribute to a friend, to my friend. Ah, Thomas. Everybody wants to talk about Thomas. You know, he's mentioned more often than most of the others of the 12 anyway. Quoted, not always to his yeah, not always to his perceived good, although everyone's the most well-known quote is, "Unless I see the wounds on his hands and put my finger in his side, I won't believe." You know, the doubting Thomas story. There's a whole lot more to it than that. But let me tell you about my friend Thomas. I first knew him in Severus. It's a rather cosmopolitan town, the Herod Agrippa's capital of the Galilee. Very cosmopolitan. There were Romans and Greeks, Parthians, Persians. Um, there a lot of traffic came through there, and it was booming. The town had been virtually destroyed at the end of a Jewish revolt against Herod, and there was a building boom going on just about the time that Joseph, Mary, and Jesus were coming back to their homeland from a time in Egypt. It was a booming building trade. And no, Joseph was a a tecton. He knew how to work with wood and especially with stone. And Nazareth, where they ended up, is just 4 kilometers roughly from Sepphoris. Kind of uphill, but barely an hour's walk. And Joseph used to take Jesus along with him, looking for work. Thomas's father was a builder, a master builder, and rather influential in the town. I don't think he was a native Galilean. Had a funny accent. I would guess maybe once upon a time Antioch or something in his background. Thomas grew up in Sepphoris. He spoke like a true Galilean, and he spoke Koine, the local Greek, like a native, and he spoke Latin passably, um, and a few other odds and ends. You couldn't do business in that town without being an amateur linguist. Uh, Thomas was following in his father's footsteps, learning how to be a builder. Now, a builder wasn't just the contractor or just the guy with a hammer or a chisel. Uh, a builder was also an architect. A builder had to present his plans or his ideas to win contracts. Uh, although um, it certainly helped if you knew people who knew people, because, well, under Herod's government, under the government of all the Herods and the Romans, who you know mattered a whole lot. Well, Thomas's family was rather well connected. Well, Thomas and Jesus met when they were kids. Jesus would tag along with his father and help him out if there were things that he could do on the job site. Joseph was pretty tolerant though when Thomas came up, and they seemed to be getting along. You know, Jesus was a young child. Later, he was more of a worker, and as he grew into adolescence, Thomas influenced his dad to hire Jesus separately from Joseph. I mean, in addition to bring a little more income to the family. What did they do when they weren't working on the buildings? Well, uh, they did attend some different synagogues in the evening when Joseph didn't mind. Joseph liked, to sit with the elders and discuss the holy books and the law. And so they had they shared some of the intellectual movements that were going on in Sepphoris. And Thomas and Jesus used to practice writing in Aramaic, Hebrew, and even Greek. Um, Now, remember, Thomas's family, they were builders. Now, wax tablets were way too expensive, but they did have a method of making little trays with very, very finely ground sand, very, very fine sand. And Thomas showed Jesus how to take a twig and nibble on it just so, and lightly trace letters where the sand wasn't disturbed so much that they weren't perfectly legible. So, and they used to practice their letters and words and stuff, and Jesus did perfect the the talent of writing in the sand, which he demonstrated at a later time. You might recall. Now, Thomas was not a fisherman. He was a builder, but as childhood friends, uh, when they began to have some time to go out as men among the region, young men, they often would listen to the various itinerant preachers and teachers who moved about the land. Uh, Jesus talked Thomas into hearing John the Baptist when he was preaching. Uh, Thomas kind of liked John. It was very pragmatic and down to earth. I'm not saying Thomas didn't have imagination. He was a builder. He thought in terms of material and management of space. And I, here it is, see it. But he also knew that as a builder, you have to sell your idea when you're bidding for a contract. Even if you're well connected, what are you offering me? The ruler might say, or the rich merchant or whatever. So Thomas had to learn how to take drawings on a wax tablet in this, by that time, and sell the idea to show with simple lines on a tablet of wax and get the patron to imagine what the finished product was going to look like and how what all the benefits it would be and how it would be superior to other kinds of buildings. And he was good at translating from the inner, the imaginary world into the material world. A little less good at transferring from the imaginary world to the material. Well, but that's a little different. That's part of his struggle. So you have a down to earth, pragmatic guy, a bit of a practical joker. He and Jesus both kind of enjoyed playing pranks, and Jesus would tend to anchor Thomas, keep him out of serious trouble, or keep him maybe from um, frightening some old lady coming back from the well so much that she might drop her water pot and break it. That would be, Jesus kind of steered Thomas away from those kinds of pranks. But they loved riddles and uh, surprising responses to serious questions, and kind of egged each other on. Well, Thomas did hang out with John the Baptist for quite a while. Got to know his what he had to say. He certainly was baptized by John. It's not Nobody bothered to write it down, but I don't think any of of Jesus's close friends and associates, you know, didn't visit the Jordan or whatever other water source John happened to be in at the time. So John had an interest in you know, the idea of the good news, the idea of a coming Messiah. Um, well, that's pretty common throughout the Galilee, but Thomas paid a little more attention to John than some of the others. Some of the others he was pretty dismissive of. What else can I tell you about Thomas? Well, he was the kind of the man behind the scenes a lot of times. He wasn't with Peter, James, and John. He wasn't part of the inner three, but he did have status in the group of Jesus's lifetime friend. I mean, they'd known each other, you know, ever since, you know, before their bar mitzvahs. So he had a way of quietly murmuring or whispering in the ear of some of the other disciples, Jesus himself. Uh, take any of the crowd scenes, let's say, where people are on a hill or in some kind of a natural amphitheater. Thomas was the one, you know, was the builder. He was the one that would take in what the position of the sun was and where it was going to be, how the landscape might affect the acoustics, and kind of quietly influence just where the crowds would be sitting. And he always had an eye for a way out. Um, there might have been one obvious path in, maybe even two, but Thomas would check it out and talk to some of the locals, and he had a sharp eye. There was always an escape route. Um, there's a few stories that have gone around about Jesus being surrounded by a hostile crowd, and he disappeared from their midst. Um, I can tell you, uh, who knew how Jesus was going to affect that disappearing act. It wasn't an act. He always had a plan B. He always had, you know, a way out, um, and had just a quiet way of letting other people know. So, who did he hang out with? Judas, quite a bit. Thomas was often sent to make preparations. He was part of the I guess we would call it the forward team nowadays. Jesus planned to go to this town or that. A lot of times, Thomas was and Judas were set ahead. Judas, of course, had a little bit of money to spread around if that was necessary. And Thomas, well, he was connected. He knew people who knew people, and so, you know, he would look at the area, look for you know potential problems. He would look for where the best sites for Jesus to teach or preach might be. Um, you know, he was pretty useful for that. So he wasn't as close to the other 12 as maybe the others enjoyed. He was away so much. I mean, never for long periods, but well, you know, a half a day here and a day there add up. So, you know, he was noticed, but not taken note of very often. The fact that he is mentioned as often as he is, and even quoted a couple of times, tells you a little bit about they did listen. They did listen when he did speak. Well, anyway, we all know, we've all read and heard and listened to homilies about the doubting Thomas scene. Um, it isn't that Thomas didn't believe. Why, Thomas is the first who's expressed a willingness to die with Christ. Uh, well, he and everybody else kind of changed their mind after the arrest, but at least he did express the sentiment. Um, after the resurrection, Peter said, "You are the Messiah, the Son of God." Thomas is the one who said, "My Lord and my God." Now we call him Doubting Thomas because he said he wasn't going to believe. Thomas did have issues. It's not that he didn't believe. He just had questions about the quality of his belief, if you will. Um, when he was sent, probably I'm pretty sure it was with Judas again. I wasn't there at that time. The first time into the neighboring the villages and towns around Galilee. Um, yeah, he preached, he taught, he shared the good news. He shared what Jesus had taught him, and he prayed with Judas or whoever his partner happened to be, and demons were cast out and people were healed. But Thomas was never sure if it was his prayer. He always kind of thought, wow, Judas has got it. He believed, but he was not sure of his worthiness. He wasn't sure of how could he believe. And this was a conflict that stayed with him throughout the years of tromping around the hills and the deserts and the green places. Uh, so after Jesus was crucified, and the disciples started, jumping up and down about how Jesus had even appeared to them. Well, there we are, just like so many other times. Thomas wasn't there. Thomas was not, sometimes didn't feel he really a part of the group. And he was so frustrated in a way. It was like, I knew it. I knew it all along. All these others have got it. They even saw him, and I didn't. He didn't mean I would. He said, I can't believe. I can't believe unless I see it. God, have mercy on me. I can't. And that is the moment when his heart and his soul were rending from top to bottom. And he was at his lowest. That's when Jesus came back that second time. That's when he opened the tunic and invited Thomas to touch him. And he freed him. He freed him from his self-doubt. He freed him from his compulsion to measure himself among all the others, find himself wanting. And in the joy of discovering that liberation, Jesus said, can you imagine how joyful others will be who come to believe this, but didn't get to see it like you? And Thomas, he sat back, well, and said, I've been doing this all my life. I take drawings and I make people see a completed structure. I give them faith in what I can do. Of course I can bring them faith in what Jesus does. Yeah. When he was ready to be freed from the prison of himself, that's what Christ came to him. There's more I could say about him, but for this time in this place, when so many are wondering, what the world could Jesus do? It doesn't seem like he's coming. Let your heart not break. Be not afraid. Thomas was freed from the prison of himself. And I pray to the Apostle Thomas, my namesake this day, that all who hear this, all who listen, and all who don't may be freed from the prison of themselves. And so through the intercession of St. Thomas the Apostle, may God bless you.